Hello everyone, welcome to the chapter 4 of this real earnings management calculation. So this session will be focusing on the practical data collection and data analysis of REM calculations or real earnings management calculations. And for this purpose, we're going to use Microsoft Excel for data collection and analysis and data manipulation. So before going into the practical part, we're going to have some instructions on how to approach this. So even if you're a research student or a PhD scholar, or you are working for an organization and you want to do some um, REM calculation, it's always good to have instructional guide or a plan how to do it. So always use a spreadsheet application for data collection. Like I said earlier, either Excel, Google Sheet, or whatever open source spreadsheet application. And make sure always have a backup of your relevant data collection sheets as well as your data. For example, your annual reports and your financial statement. Make sure you have a copy of it. At the same time, when you're working on your work Excel sheet, make sure you save it and have an extra copy in your external hard drive or OneCloud or any other cloud services. Always have a plan and have a data collection method which suits you the best. So make sure you identify, okay, this is my data collection period, whether you have identified it properly, whether the data collection should be cross-sectional or longitudinal or any other methods. So make sure you have all those figured it out first before going into data collection. And first, the other one is avoid mistakes and be consistent in data collection and formatting. So this is basically apples with apples, oranges with oranges, not apples and oranges. So what I mean is, like, if you are doing for a US dollar based company financial report, make sure everything is in USD. If you are doing euro, make sure everything is in euro. If you are doing cost country, like you're doing analysis with USD and euro, have it in one common denominator. Convert all USD to euro or convert all euro to USD, and make sure your decimals, your number formatting, and everything is consistent throughout your data collection. Do not mismatch. Don't put 5 decimals somewhere, 2 decimals another, put in $1,000 in somewhere else, and put decimals somewhere else. So it will be confusing, it will be misrepresenting, it will make your data cleanup very tedious. So avoid all this unnecessary and make sure be persistent, be focused, do not make any mistakes, and ensure the correct period is defined for the collection period for that period. Collected for that period. But for example, if your analysis is for 2040 to 2050, data should be collected for this study should be collected from 2038 to 2050, because you need the prior 2 years prior to the defined collection period. So because it will make your life easier and you need those information. So let's move into the REM lead sheet. So what I'm talking about here is here. So we are going to separate what we learned in chapter 3 into different sheets. So you can get the data individually without putting everything in one piece of Excel sheet. So first of all, you have to get the absolute figures. So before that, this sheet will have a summary of the actual expenses, the normal expenses, then you calculate the abnormal expenses, and you add all these three: abnormal cash flow, abnormal discretionary, abnormal production, and you get finally the REM number or the REM figure. And be mindful, this data, numbers, everything is fictional, right? It's just I use random function in Excel to generate them to get the data. So be mindful when you're doing such calculation. Make sure everything is in the same format. The presentation is important, guys. You should be able to visually, okay, picture everything. Okay, what I'm doing here. Even if someone else, if you want to help with data collection, they can see, okay, this guy is using Times New Roman, or this is doing, okay, 1000 figures common denominators, and he has to bold for headings likewise. So everything should be neat and presentable. So here you calculate everything and bring it to the lead sheet or the main sheet, and from this you can just easily calculate the rep. So these actuals are from your annual reports. These are from your step 2, step 3, step 4 sheets, like abnormal, normal cash flow, normal cash flow, discretionary expenses, normal production expenses here. So once this is done, and all this are fictional for this video series. Okay, so you will have the actual cash flow, discretionary expenses, and once you have collected this from your annual reports, this you have to, like I said, now all these I'm using US dollars. So I have noted on the top saying, okay, do not mistake. Don't make any mistake, or make sure everything is in dollars. If you come across another figure or an amount which is in another currency, convert it to US dollars. Okay. Now, step 1. So this sheet, you can have to do it at the last, but I'm just saying, have a sheet like this. It will make you easy to identify, okay, this is my rep. Okay, ABCD Limited, if your superior or you need to find a particular supervisor ask you for, okay, 20x3 ABC Limited, what's the rem? Okay, there you go. This is the one. So it's so easy to find out. Now, step 1, you put a heading, notes. So again, like I said, 20x1 to 20x6 analysis, the data collection should be 2 years prior to that. For example, here 2040 to 2050, you have to collect it from 2038 to 2050. Then always use absolute figures for your data collection, but in the REM sheet, the final sheet, do not use absolute figures. Here I have a warning here. And here you have to use, you can use absolute figures, meaning if it's just use this formula and enter the figure. Likewise, actual expenses, I put a $sign, cash flow, actual, discretionary, actual, production. So when it comes to discretionary expenses, like I explained in chapter 3, if your company or your data collection company organization uses UK GAAP, it should be the sum of admin expenses, distribution expenses, and other expenses. If it follows US GAAP or United States generally accepted accounting practices, then the sum of research development expenditure, advertising expenditure, selling general and administrative expenditure should be your discretionary expenses. Be careful of this practice. This is defined in the prior researchers, as well as this is the practice. But there are instances where this will be avoided. Like, for example, if you are going to find a different real earnings management in a different setting, or if your supervisors or if your superiors instructed you to, okay, do not use these expenses, but let's find some another pattern. Therefore, we will be using another different set of expenses classification. Please go ahead with your supervisors. But this is the norm. This is the generally accepted practice for calculating REM. There are various factors, but this is based on prior literature. I have given the references in the prior chapter 3. You should be aware of this. Okay. Now comes the complicated part, calculating the normal equation for cash operations, discretionary expenses, and normal expenditures. Okay, so now it will be a big complicated list. Okay, and I have just put some notes. So this is the first formula, and do keep in mind before I come into this explaining this cash flow particular period and cash assets before that. You can see here I've used log A. Based on one of the recent prior studies, they have used log A. But if your supervisor says, okay, do not use the log of A, do not use it. Just use the asset base prior to the year. So like here, likewise, look, when you come down here, you can see I have sheet, or I have inserted a figure prior to the year 20x1, 20x0, 20x0, because you might need the information that to be added. Okay, so that's why I have added those figures. Okay, now the data collection for this will be a little bit complicated. Okay, now for this, in order to understand this, you guys should have a basic understanding of the basic statistics. Most importantly, when I say statistics, the branch of regression analysis. So regression is simply, when I say it, it's y equals mx plus c. So y is the dependent, x is independent, mx the gradient of x, c is the intercept. So basically it's a straight line, it's a Cartesian equation. So everything is going to be based on this formula. So how do we collect data for this? That's the main part. So this regression formula, which represents the properties of y as characteristics. Okay, alphas and betas to be reverse calculated. So alphas, or this is alpha 0, alpha 1, beta 2, all these are calculated at the end. Meaning, so let's say if we say this equation, right? So this CEF for the cash flow divided by asset is y. And the rest, each component like this in this equation is mx, like from this alpha 1 to beta 2 is the mx, and this you can consider as the intercept. And there's another figure here, this symbol that looks like s small, like an s, e. This is what is called epsilon. Okay, this is called the epsilon or the error term. So do not worry about this, because these are not, you're not going to calculate it manually, but you're going to calculate it using a data analysis tool, which is available on Excel sheet, in Excel sheet. So now we have to deconstruct this formula into several parts, so you can plug in the figures for it. So first of all, you have to get the CEF for actual. Okay, this part. So just put that one. Then the asset minus asset t minus 1, or the asset prior year. So let's say if this is 2, if t is for 2x1, then the next figure, this should be 2x0. So it's like for that, it's like that. So t is for the time period. If actual is 20x1, for asset t minus 1 is 20x0. Okay, then you divide this, okay, C column by D, you get this figure. Alpha is alpha 0, leave it as it. Alpha 1, just put it over here. That, because here you need this information to calculate alphas and betas. So fill in this information. And after that, this alpha 1, everything, all the alphas and betas will be calculated at the very end, once you are done with your filling in information. Okay. So this is again a random figure. I use just a random figure to get the log 1. And then you have to multiply G alpha 1 by column 1 this to get the I figure. Again, you put beta 1, then you get S sales for period, and again T. This T minus 1, A T minus 1, or the assets. Asset is same as this figure. But I'm just putting this information again and again, the same, like if you see the green column here, the green ones here, let me undo this. Okay, see these greens are the same figures. I'm just reinserting. I'm not increasing the workload, but I'm just without confusing, like again, because we have to calculate alpha into 1 over log of A. Okay, so again, without doing a lot of cross calculation, you will have, okay, I'll just insert the figures here. So then what you have to do is you have to just calculate beta, meaning J, column J, into M. And so let me, there's a small hammer here. So here it should be J 10 into M10. Likewise here. So let's say, for example, the ST figures, I'm just going to generate some random figure here. Okay. I'm just going to put some random figures here. And before this, I'm going to use absolute. Or I can just use the absolute at the end. So, but when you're doing it here, just put absolute figure. But when you are doing it, you're not going to use the random function because for this study, I'm just going to use fictional figures. Okay. So now for this, I'm going to divide, I'm going to put absolute here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this by ST1 AT minus 1. Then I'm going to do this and I'm going to give 5 decimals. Okay. So this I'm going to copy. Okay. So these are the T values. Again, now you will have a question. Okay, look, betas we're going to do it at the end. Again, now we're going to go to beta 1 is this. So beta 2, again this part, see a small triangle before the ST, S cells for period T. The triangle is called delta, meaning it's a scientific term meaning the change. Okay. So how do you calculate change? So let's say the change between this year and the current year. This year. So for example, T1 ST So this is the current year compared to last year. So minus 1. Okay, again we can just get some random this same figure here, and let's generate this random figures here again. But when you are doing, guys, you have to use so I'm just gonna do a random figure here. And paste values, and I'm gonna, okay, again, now I have ST1. So basically what we are doing here is, if let's say if your current year is 2040, the change, so the change from previous year 2039, so the difference. So again here, just use absolute figures, simple as that, just use absolute figures. So this is the current year, this is the previous year, but when you're doing it, use ABS, absolute, then close this. Then when you drag it, okay, again you put the comma style or the number format, and you don't need the 2 decimals here, so just remove those. Okay, the decimals, if you want 5 places, just 5. Okay, now we're gonna get delta sales for the period T divided by assets 1 year prior to the current year, or T minus 1. So we have the T minus 1 here. Now we have the delta change, or the change in sales. Now what we're going to do is we're going to divide this by this figure. And again, we'll have the certain figures here, and we'll just insert it here. That's it. And similarly, now what we're going to do is, this is beta 2, right? So beta 2, we have the beta 2 in O10, and we're going to get T10. You're going to multiply it by T10. Okay, so we put an equal sign. We're going to go to beta, and we're going to get ST1. Again, it's 0 because beta we're going to calculate at the end. Okay. Now what we're going to do is, now is more tricky part. So now we're going to calculate what? We're going to calculate the alphas. So remember, alphas you have to calculate separate depending on your classification. So for example, let's say this is one, ABCD is one company, DEF is one company. So you have to calculate separately for each classification. Now let's say, for example, so ABCD is food industry, DEF is retail industry, so alphas for the food industry will not be same as for the alpha in the retail industry. So if it's like this, then if you classify these are okay. I'm just saying for example, like hypothetically. So if it's like this, ABCD is one company or same company, but if it's in the food industry, you calculate only for that. Even in this scenario, even if you don't have the industry here, you have to just calculate it for this set of companies separately, this separate companies separately. Again, we are going to use the alpha or the regression method to calculate it. So for this, you guys have to know, you guys have to have the idea, okay, of regression analysis in statistical method. So let's see how we're going to calculate it. So some of you guys will not have this in your Excel sheet, but do not worry, I will show you how to get the data. Then you go to data. When you go to data in the menu bar, then you have analysis, data analysis. Then you click data analysis. Then after that, you can click on regression. Okay, just regression here, click OK. Then there will be another table saying input Y, input X, label, and new worksheet, and give me residual values. Residual is basically the error term, and normal probability plot. But this is not necessary for you guys at the moment, but you guys can check, you can insert it and check what is what. So input Y range. Imagine here it says Y range, not Y one single cell. So that's one concern. That's one thing you have to realize here. See, so here you just click on that tab and you have to select CFO column E. CFO for period T divided by assets T minus 1 period. So just select from X1. Your analysis period is from X1 to X6, not X0. So just select this and it will say, tell you here. It will fix it. Okay, you want me to do from E12 to E17 for ABCD Limited. Okay, so once that is done, go to X range and again do the same thing. But now we are just calculating alpha value for T. Alpha 1. Okay, alpha 1 only. You can have the labels if you want, but always put the new worksheet. Okay, worksheet. Okay, you can just say alpha 1 here. Okay, confidence level, it's fixed at 95% is fine. So make sure now we are just calculating for ABC Limited for alpha 1. Now once you press O, it will give you something like this for alpha 1. It will automatically create the sheet alpha 1. Okay, now here it will give you some sort of table like this. Okay, some sort of table like this. Now, which part should I take? Okay, if you use this, it will give you summary output and it will give you such information. So here you can just go and read some of these inputs. So this is why it's important for you guys to have a basic understanding of statistics before using this information. Okay, so here for the without going into technical, just read this coefficient. So it's basically the coefficient you needed. Okay, the coefficient, this one, just without going into deep, you can just use this, the minus figure, because just take this coefficient here and you have to just put it into this. Everything will have the same figure. Okay, coefficient will have the same figure. Okay, but when you're doing the multiplication figure, make sure you use absolute again, because otherwise it will not be too much complicated to use it. Again, then you multiply it and blah. Okay, again, when you want to do for beta 1, again you're going to use the same method. Okay, same method. Go to data, go to data analysis, click regression. For y will be the same, okay, the CFO, but here again this x range will be different. X range will be this sales divided by, then again say beta 1, keep the residuals and click OK, and you will have beta 1. Again, go to coefficients, get that figure, copy it and put it back in beta 1. See, this betas won't change because it's the same company, so beta value will be same. Again, once you are done with this, then again you multiply beta 1 by this, and you will get, again, make sure you put the absolute value here again, ABS, and put it again, and you're done. Simple as that. So you multiply this and you get the figures in, and you again you do the same thing for beta 2. Again you go here, data analysis, click on regression, click OK. Again you change the X. You guys can use SPSS for the same thing, but if you're doing it in Excel, it would be somewhat easier to do. So the Y won't change, but the X will change. The delta, make sure you get this component, delta change in sales divided by asset for the period T minus 1. Okay, again here you're gonna say beta 2. Always make sure you put different names, the beta 2, beta 1, beta 2, so it won't confuse you. So again you do the same thing and you just get the first coefficient here, and you go back to your calculations and you insert it here, and you will get your, then again you have to multiply this by this and by T10, and you'll get this figure. Again, if it has minus figure, so just put ABS. So these calculations, guys, it will differ from your research approach and your statistical methods. Because why? Because your supervisor will tell you, okay, please do not use this method, please use a different method, please use different way, do not use this beta, use a different lower value or upper value confidence level. So these will change, guys. This will change from time to time. So it depends on your approach. I'm just taking the first instance and I'm just going with that. Okay. And once you have done with this, see, now we do not have alpha 0. Okay, alpha 0 we do not have. alpha 0 is for this entire equation. Okay. So what you guys have to do here is you have to insert another column. Okay. Then what you have to do is you have to include all this alpha, these values, and add it. Okay, this value, add it here. Okay, all these values added here. So this again will be your x value. Okay, all this will be your x value. Again, you have to go to data analysis, click on regression, say okay. Then again you have to click your x range and give this particular series. Okay, labels, click new worksheet, say alpha 0, alpha 0. Okay, again you just take the first instance, you go back to your cash flow and you insert it. Okay, put the paint on. Okay, again now we have the alpha value for A. Okay, but in this instance, once you calculate alpha value, you can get the residual value, meaning the residual value for the entire equation, because the residual output. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, because why is there 5 observations? Because you have 5 companies here, 5 companies for 5 periods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'll explain to you. Okay, observation. So observations here, because it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's why how it comes, because this is, in order for you guys to understand the statistical part, you need to have a different session on how these figures come in. So just take the last figure, residuals. Just take this figure last and you can put it as for observations and just put values and bring it down. So then once you have done this, now for one ABC Limited, you have all the figures for complete this analysis. Okay. Now what you have to do is, now you have to just add, you don't need to add this part, this CFO part, just add these parts and you will get the calculations for again you can use absolute and go for F10 equals I equals M10 equals T10, sorry, U10 equals your epsilon, then change it. So here I have to make U10, and this is your the normal operations value for your cash flow. So this is a pretty much tedious work. Okay, once you have got these figures, what you have to do is come to your lead sheet and insert here, go to your, click on here. So now you're automatically linking it. So if this becomes negative, oh, sorry, I've done it wrong. So this, because it's becoming negative because I'm not using actual figures and I'm using random figures just to give you the explanation of how to be done. So I put here, then I link it down until 2026. Then you will have the REM. So this is the part I'll highlight it. So this is the part we did the calculation. So similarly, we have to do this again for DEF Limited. Similarly, what we did for this. Likewise, I have given you the sheets for step 3, separated discretionary accruals. So discretionary expenses actual, assets before T minus 1 period, then divide this by this, then you do the alpha, then you calculate the log base. Again, there's log base assets 1. You can use log base, if not you can avoid it. Again, similarly, you have to do this for the calculation part. And I have another additional sheet for beta calculation, just if you want to try it out without messing up your main sheet. Then again, I have the production cost, again a long formula. Again, you have to calculate first individually at all the components one by one, calculate your change in assets, then finally calculate the normal cash flow from production. Again, discretionary expenses. Likewise. So finally, this is, but I will add a note on how to activate the data analysis model on your Excel for this instructional video. So I'm not going to calculate all this because I'm just using random figures. But once you're doing with the actual figures, you'll get different figures, which is supposed to be less, and it will be in decimals. Okay. And if you have any doubts, please put a comment. And if you have any improvement or further explanation, I will put it in comments or upload another video, a correctional video, if there's any doubt or serious deviation. And thank you very much, guys, for listening or signing up for this course to understand real earnings management. Thank you.